Welcome to Ames, and excuse us for the technical glitch, coming online on time.
Yes, virtual time.
Okay, so we are live from Luxor, Egypt.
And right now we're in Reality Gateway 1, Section 3. And today we're going over Sacred Destiny teachings and transmissions, initiation practices, and also ancient intelligent transmission, which the ancient intelligence we actually recorded earlier at the Temple of Karnak. So that'll be a pre-recorded session that we'll upload to this link.
Perfect. So we start off first with the transmissions. It is immensely potent, powerful in terms of the gateways, the gateway jumps, the timeline jumps, and we have been here for what is 3 days, and in day 3 we feel like we have been here for an eternity.
Yes.
So we are working on so many multi-trans dimensions. We are working with multiple preps in terms of our initiations. And so today's seminar will be massively technical in terms of your preps, your initiation, your upgrades, your contact, and those frequency changes, essential frequency changes that unplug you from the false matrix and plug you into sacred sovereignty and the sacred matrix, of course. So it's an entirely different reality, game changer in terms of the way that you would ordinarily work in generic consciousness training, generic spiritual training. So what's coming up at this time is on site in the earth grid. There is a new frontier of work, and I mean, this is hugely important that we finally unplug from the wound and the repeats and the wound projections, and we finally enter into, and we want to enter into the work that is on a frequency note, high caliber, and that also takes us into the upscaling, the upgrading of the consciousness training and the reality training that is now possible with this massive overhaul of our journey with training. So over to you.
Yes. So we're talking today about sacred destiny teachings, and what I wanted to go into was, how do you know when your path or your destiny is in alignment with your higher self and with source? So let's take it back. Let's go back now to my experience, which was at the age of 7 years old, coming into a new country and having no idea what this culture was like. And being 7 years old in America, you're learning, coming from Jamaica, the language, you're learning the culture, and you're acclimating yourself to this new environment. To age 11, where my godmother first taught me how to be a guardian, as she was a santero, and I had to protect her energy field while she was traveling. Fast forward now, many years later, as I am just turning 50, and I meet this amazing woman and teacher and also medium, and now the same thing that I had to learn when I was 11 years old, I am doing now for her, to create the field around her, to protect her, to hold her. And that's part of when you're on the right path. You don't even realize it at age 7 or age 11 or age 50. Your sacred destiny is always being guided. And if you're living in your truth and standing in what you believe in and holding, yourself accountable and speaking your truth and uh, staying on the path, no matter how difficult it may be at times or how lost it may be at times, if you trust source and you are allowing yourself to be led by creator, by source, you'll always end up in that sacred destiny. You'll always end up with your sacred love, living your true life purpose and soul mission. So how do you know that the path that you're on is part of your sacred destiny? How do you know that? What are the signposts, as we say, to check and see, are you on the right path, or are you in alignment with your soul purpose, your divine purpose and soul mission is what we call it, and how do you check on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a yearly basis, each point in your life where you might veer off. And I always say that the frequency and the energy and the vibration and the internal feeling of the things that you're doing. So we talked about this in the last transmission about checking into your heart. What feels right within your heart? What is motivating you? What's giving you the passion? If you're doing things to please others, then that's not in alignment with yourself. That's not in alignment.
Envy, if you are taking wrong action based on envy and imitation, it's a big energetic no, and a big sacred destiny default. It's a no. Yeah. So these teachings, I believe, your sacred destiny and listening to it and sacred honoring it is also part of your own spiritual education, i.e. listening to yourself beyond your own cultural programming, so that you are listening for the sacred values required in terms of your sacred destiny. And for example, imitation and false matrix attachments, these of course are not sacred destiny honoring. I just want to go back to what you said. So as long as I can remember, what was key is my memories of one question, i.e., are we a universe contained in many universes? I instinctively, intuitively, and always was experiencing spirits and guardians and keepers of the knowledge of light firsthand. That was my experience as a child. My gift came in built. My own sacred truth was, what the hell is going on this planet? Why are human beings not communicating correctly their thoughts, their feelings, their truth? And at a very early age, I learned to be very silent, partly because I was overwhelmingly shocked energetically by the harshness of living on this planet, partly because my sensitivity was so live. I was living in all of the matrix. So I was overwhelmingly sensitive, what you would label as a crystal or a star child. Now they're really becoming much more available in mass at this time, but these phenomena in terms of human beings, the diagnosis of these so-called children, we are all those children, and there have been forerunners, star kids, crystals, indigos, on multiple levels for generations in history. I have always been a groundbreaking revolutionary, whether it's at school or it's within the context of social norms. And I've always been able to listen, to identify with those individuals who require healing. So my first memories of being in service is in the playground when a child was massively sick with leukemia, and her condition was making so many children operate and act from a place of fear. And I was her only friend, and I spoke with her. And it was at the end of her life. And that memory of her stayed with me when other children were being unkind. I was standing by her side. So those key moments, the sensitivity range was already in place. Communication was already in place. The questions were already posed. My destiny and what was to come, because of my sensitivity abilities, I was already working and operating the timelines. I could already see way into my future, and I was already aware of who I was and what I could be in terms of my guardianship of the knowledge of light. I was also placed in the north of England, where programming was so intensive. So my own identity as an individual was already being massively shaped and hijacked by my own cultural identity, and equally within the context of my family. My family are massively programmed. However, their guardianship of me took me to an array of power sites as a child. So that is also an intrinsic key within the context of my guiding and my mentorship in terms of my destiny. And my parents, even today, are guardians in death to every individual who sacred calls them. So however the cultural programming, there is a support and a guidance and sacred science within the context of my sacred destiny today. Every experience I have had, every challenge in my life has taken me to this point in time. I mean, everything. So what we regard as the insane challenges and the insane hiccups and pauses and obstacles, when we sit in those pauses and we meditate or we contemplate, that sacred resource always returns to us and reminds us of who we are and why we are here, and that we always have the capability to keep moving forward no matter what. So it's sacred strength and sacred resource that shows up for us, even when our greatest challenges demonstrate that perhaps others are not there for us. But this is interesting too, because of course, when the wound is contaminating or hijacking our sacred destiny, it is of course imposing the density of certain 3D timelines on living our destiny immediately. So what I believe is, as I journey through my own contracts of destiny, is this: we are all born knowing our sacred destiny. We are impacted metaphysically by cultural programming and exchanges, which have particular wound attachments associated with our exchanges. That creates a particular frequency, which impacts a lower density timeline. We're not massively disconnected from our sacred destiny. It's always present, but it can become faintly present so that we have more of a resonance and a reality gateway with the density of our wound rather than the frequency of our sacred destiny, so that there is a distortion in terms of our reality gateways. So I believe this, that 3D is a massive unplug. So you are really living heavily in, most of the time, the denser reality gateway of the 3D light timeline. So that's the false matrix. Unplugging from the false matrix and not buying into it is fundamentally pretty tricky, although of course everyone experiences sacred love and everyone experiences dreams. So there's a 3D and a 4D reality gateways where we are predominantly fixed, but always, because of our human experience, every human being on the planet experiences and is experienced metaphysics. If they hit a power site, if they hit a high frequency energy pathway, gateway portal, high frequency gateway portal is also an individual who is not plugged into the false matrix or cultural programming density. So we always have our protectors, guardians, sacred gateways that are there to remind us, to save us, to upgrade us, to upscale us, to nudge us. And for those of us who are spiritual, we hold on to that hope and we hold on to that faith and we hold on to that sacred truth, because of course, those experiences are invaluable. Those are the experiences that we remember, and those are the experiences that we hold on to as spiritually hardwired, sacred hardwired individuals. And again, it brings up the question about species within species, star seeds, indigos, crystals, etc., etc. I believe we are a species within species. And again, that is another aims in terms of answering those questions. But particularly within our biological bloodlines and DNA, there are particular knowledge gateways that we must consider. In terms of my own sacred destiny, I'm aware that I work on time phases. I'm aware of my previous incarnations, lifetime to lifetime, and I'm aware of the intrinsic sacred knowledge that I carry in my soul blueprint and in my DNA that ultimately is triggered through my interactions with others who are hardwired in the same way. So the key with the keys, yes? So, this is a fascinating time where so much of the knowledge, the sacred knowledge, has been safeguarded by the bloodlines and by the species within the species who has signed up for the sacred guardianship of the sacred sovereignty of humanity and the planet. So as I walk through my sacred destiny further, the confirmation in terms of following, living that path of sacred destiny makes more sense than plugging into the false matrix, because the sacred signs show up time and time again to say, this is right path. This is the reality gateway that once you step into it and live it, the sacred signs, the sacred contracts show up. So your age 11 experiences, he made choices in terms of living that sacred path or plugging into the false matrix, and we all make choices. So I, on the other hand, at 17, had that massive awakening in terms of my grandmother's death, in which I was her gatekeeper. Prophecy was involved with it within the context of her dying and having dreams and sitting with her, holding sacred space in terms of her stories. That invoked massively more ramped up metaphysical experiences, which made my decision. I am not plugging into the false matrix. And so I unplugged from going to Oxford to study philosophy, politics, and economics, and I signed up for my art course because, of course, my creativity and my imagination is also part of this training. So, and prophecy and imagination is all part of playing in the timelines, and it's all part of the legacy that those individuals who are hardwired as star seeds, indigos, new wavers, etc. Those individuals require creativity to survive in the false matrix. And of course, that's part of our spiritual training. Our identity as sacred beings. Yes? So that's training is part of our movement in terms of our consciousness and our ability to move reality, which is also being part of your journey in navigating your history and your false matrix, but then what you've experienced in terms of the entertainment industry. But essentially being a creative and a mystic in it. See, we always are returning to the truth. Here's magic in entertainment to create magic, in alchemy to create the magic, as a revolutionary to create the magic in the world we live in, and to allow ourselves to create the magic in the world that we live in. And AIMS is very much about creating that spiritual revolution, that conscious revolution for individuals and say, choose the magic. Choose it, choose to create the magic. Yes, yes. No matter what low density individuals speak of in terms of reality and reality gateways, do not allow others to extinguish your flame of hope and your flame of light. Yes. So we just sat in the restaurant, all the power went down, we were given candles of hope. So life always is giving us the sacred signs. And I mean, we were playing.
So what does that candle represent? It represents light.
Light, hope, faith, and absolute faith. And we were playing with changing the colors of the flame. And I mean, it was happening. We were in a live metaphysical experience in a restaurant in blackout here. So we created the magic live. Yeah. And knowing that we can in ordinary reality. Yeah.
But if you weren't practicing, doing the training and walking the path and having that heightened sense of awareness, you wouldn't have been able to realize that that moment when the lights went off and those candles got lit, that was part of your learning experience. That was part of you forgetting about everything else and just focusing your attention on being in that moment, focusing on that flame, creating that community, that bond with each other. And that's how the universe shows up for you. Those small, we might think are insignificant moments, but they're so beautiful, they're so magical. And when we stop and just breathe that in and allow that to become part of our being, we're living the sacred destiny because we're actually experiencing it on a day-to-day basis. And we actually got a chance to learn that today when the lights went out.
It's a very different type of fulfillment, which of course, elitists in spirituality or training would not understand, because the goals are different, the aims are different. We have sacred aims rather than false matrix aims, and we have no attachment to false matrix need and greed. So those are not from the outset the purpose of the work that we do. So there's no attachment to false matrix, transformation, evolution, because of course those are false starts within the context of our evolution. And of course it takes us no closer towards evolution and contribution. So the big no-nos, and in terms of my work, I speak out against false matrix advocates, whether they're conscious or unconscious. But I work on myself, so I have the awareness and the discernment to recognize what is sacred destiny and what is a false matrix attachment. Yeah, and it is hardwired into the density, and it's hardwired in the lack of ability to see beyond need and greed and a false matrix agenda. You know, and this is a huge crime against humanity, which creates perpetual pauses and hijacks in our evolutionary cycles. So again, this is a massive feature of today's awakening, today's evolution as well. It's written into the Dendera zodiac. Also, it's written into the ancient intelligence here. Our mainstream arena of researchers and presenters aren't particularly aware of the legacy of ancient intelligence that points consistently towards sacred destiny and a huge ascension cover up here in terms of Egypt. I mean, you cannot truly learn about ancient Egypt when there have been so many false matrix projections upon the sacred knowledge of ancient Egypt, because the purity and the sacred truth of this legacy is phenomenal and is outstanding. It answers multiple questions in terms of our history, our sacred sovereignty, our sacred origins, our star origins, our contact, our extraterrestrial guides within the context of our ancient history, sacred texts that are uncontaminated, sacred architecture which has been left live in these sacred texts, sacred intelligence. I mean, it's all waiting to be unplugged. And of course, false matrix hijacks, distorts the reality of this legacy, distort the legacy of stargates, sacred individuals who are transmitting. I mean, that's important. Transmitting. Those individuals are transmuting all the time the hijacks of the false matrix, and they are not being downgraded in terms of the density of the false matrix. So it's about maintaining that high frequency reality gateway, because one is only committed to sacred destiny, yes, and is truly committed to sacred truth and sacred values. Now, that's part of my legacy of information. I mean, I completed the book on 3, 4, and 5D last year. That's Reality Revolution, and that's also a book that Mystery School aims students should have access to. Yeah. So, wow, there's so many multiple levels within the context of this. Remember this, sacred destiny means this. We're not theorizing about it. It means we live it. There is a transmission of sacred intelligence, sacred love, and there is a transmission of a higher frequency gateways, which are always aligned with individuals who've lived in previous history, sacred destiny, those who create a life that has unplugged from the false matrix, is a life of magic, is a life that is not conventional, is a life that can play the timelines, yes? And is a life that spends time well, 3D time well on the planet. So that there's this capacity and this vision to be able to see the potential of life beyond need and greed. And it's like the genius gene. Yes?
Yes.
It's that ability to be able to be maverick in what shows up as life's contracts, life's challenges. And it's the resource that is the invisible resource that is sacred intelligence, that is the missing ingredient in those who are plugged into the false matrix. So the intangible is the magic, and it's tapping into the unseen that is super, super critical. And how we do it in our training, so we're not in 3D density trading constructs or information constructs. And I mean, this is important information because there are so many mentors and teachers and researchers and disclosure experts who are still in that 3D density, which of course is a moral no-no in terms of these times. However, if we are not awake, then what we believe to be truth is a frequency, and it's a distortion, it's a hijack in terms of the evolution of humanity. And that I find hugely offensive during these times, because of course, if we have sacred contact, creator guides, extraterrestrial, then it invokes and initiates those sacred acknowledgements, sacred truth, sacred values. And of course, that alchemically changes us, transmutes the false matrix attachments, and we enter into transmission. And that's one of the signposts to be aware of in yourself, but also to look for in others. So others may speak of particular reality gateway. However, if they are not in transmission of sacred values, unfortunately, they are imitators of what is to come in terms of evolution. So false prophets. This is hugely important in terms of false prophecy, and there are many, many, many false prophets in our arena. I mean, so much incomplete information and false predictions in terms of ascension, which means we're being hijacked, and every moment we spend with individuals who are false prophets, we're being hijacked, and we're also wasting our time. I mean, remove yourself. Yes, but we can only do that if we are awakened, which brings me back to the legacy of ancient Egypt. So, signposts. So, we are only awakened if we are complete. That allows us to rise, to take flight, so that we can once again see again. And that allows us to enter into the quality discernment, so we can navigate all dimensions. Yes? And the resource is our own sacred weave within the context of our own consciousness, which allows us to ignite our awareness so we can perceive the sacred matrix. Therefore, the reality gateways are initiated and activated, and we go live as sacred human beings. And that means every individual who goes live in terms of their sacred destiny and their sacred matrix is the critical key in switching on sacred reality, 5D reality, beyond here on earth. And that is the revolution. And I mean, people are requesting us to create the mobilization of the tribe. And I mean, it's happening. I mean, we're going to very definitely, and you are with Zen anywhere, and I have been for the last 20 years. I mean, it's all been ramping up in terms of this time, for the time. So I just didn't decide to do this work. I mean, I've been working meticulously on preparing for this time. Try and answering the sacred requests. And I speak of this. I only assign myself when the sacred calling arises. And so we're having legitimate requests. We will not create a project unless we are legitimately requested. For example, you asked yesterday. So when the request is live in this reality, and when we are being requested continuously, that's when we do it. I don't just decide, because that would be a decision that I'm making, perhaps from something that is more aligned with my own need, rather than a sacred calling, which is mobilizing a multiple group of sacred individuals. Yes. So the sacred calling, of course, the prophecy, of course, the alignment with sacred destiny, but it also has to have the sacred signposts in place so that the construction of the gathering is also aligned in time, the time phases. And those have keys. And what I'm recognizing within the context of sacred individuals is sacred individuals can also be a little presumptuous in terms of others being ready, and our tribe must be aligned and ready for the gathering that is due. Yes? Yes. So, yeah.
All right. So what I want everyone to do right now is just close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. Just take a few deep breaths and go back, way, way back in your timeline when you were a child. And try and remember the happiest moment of your childhood. the moment where you felt the safest, the most loved. You saw the world as this big, giant playground. You had many friends, you had laughter, you had love, you had joy, you had bliss. You could do anything your heart desired. No one was telling you that your dreams were impossible. No one was telling you that you couldn't do anything you wanted to do. And remember that feeling in your heart, in your spirit, and in your mind. Remember who was around you. Remember the environment, the sun, the wind, the laughter. Remember how energetic you felt. Remember how invincible you felt, how strong you felt. Remember running and jumping and leaping. And hold on to that feeling in your heart, that emotion of what it felt like to be a child, having childlike faith in the universe, childlike faith in people, and childlike faith in yourself. Be that child again. Skip like Angie did today when you're walking down the dirt path in Karnak. Remember what the rain felt like on your face today as you were walking in the rain without worrying about using an umbrella. Remember what joy you felt when the lights went out today and all you saw was a candlelight. You didn't have any fear of the dark. You didn't have any fear of, oh, what's happening? The lights went out. Why? What changed around you? What changed in your mind and in your heart that made you realize that this universe is a friendly universe and supports you, and everyone around you wants to support you? How does that tie into your destiny? What about our meditation earlier this morning? Maybe we're thinking we're supposed to bring in ships, but we're only supposed to bring in the rain. It's been 5 years since I've had rain here. So how significant is that? Maybe that could have been part of your destiny, to bring rain to the desert after 5 years. How much more beautiful does your life feel today? Does it feel the same as when you were a child again? What's different? You're dreaming, you're believing in the life that you've always dreamed could be. You're seeing things from a different viewpoint, a different vantage. You're allowing yourself to trust and be guided. You're allowing yourself to love yourself again and to seek truth, to seek that connection to that inner child and to God, to play in your mind and in your heart again, as you did when you were a child. Your destiny goes way, way back, past 7, past 11, past your birth. It goes back to what my queen always talks about, is your contracts. What contracts do you have? And what contracts are you fulfilling? It's said that it's through suffering that the consciousness of a man is awakened or a woman is awakened. Those things that you thought were hurtful or painful or caused you a great deal of loss and suffering, those lessons lead you to the path that you're on now. You can't appreciate love if you never experienced what it's like to not be one. You can't experience joy if you've never felt sadness. You can't enjoy the heat if you don't really like to be cold. So all those simple things in life are teaching us not only how to be awakened or how to be spiritual, it also teaches us just how to be human, how to connect to this incarnated being that we are. You know, you hear it all the time. You know, we are a spiritual being having a human experience. So let that human experience be everything that you want it to be. Let that human experience be like you were when you were a child. So sacred destiny encompasses so much more than what we think it does. My father would always say to me that what if your sole purpose in life is to walk down the street and hand, let's say, a homeless kid $20, right? And that homeless kid turns out to be some great leader or advocate or someone who changes the world. And then you continue the rest of your life thinking, oh, I didn't do what I was meant to do in this world. But that divine life purpose and soul mission was just to help one child. And in the order we teach that, and you don't have to believe this or not, the human soul takes 144 years to reincarnate. If you pass away at 70, you have to wait 74 years before you can reincarnate. And in that 74 years, you're looking back at your whole entire life, day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, and second after second, reliving every single moment in your life for 74 years. And you're feeling all the pain, all the joy, all the happiness, all the good memories, the bad memories, and you're seeing these signposts in your life over and over and over again. And I can't remember who the teacher was that I heard this from, said, the ideal way for a man or woman to pass away on their last breath is to be surrounded by friends and family that have loved them, and they tell stories about all the wonderful things you have done in your life, all the great achievements you've had, your family, your friends who you inspired and helped. And then when you take your last breath, you're surrounded by all the loving friends and family. But the most worst way for a person to pass this life is to be surrounded by dreams, goals, desires, love, possibilities, leadership skills, ideas that will now die with you. And on that last breath that you take, all you see are angry eyes, all these dreams, goals, ideas, possibilities that you could have achieved. But now they look at you with angry eyes and said, only you could have brought us to life. Only you could have made us a reality. Only you could have brought us into existence. But now we must all die because you lacked faith, courage, passion, inspiration. You allowed fear, doubt, worry, lack, limitation, and procrastination to stop you from living your sacred destiny.
So choices. So consciousness, frequency in which we choose is pivotal, so that we can indeed open the gateways to freedom. When I travel through the timelines of the clients that I work with and have worked with for the last 20 years, there are change points within the context of our journey with destiny, our journey with our mission here on the planet. And when I travel the timelines of an individual, of indeed you, I am capable of walking into your history, experiencing it with you, and aiding you in spinning a new perspective in terms of what your life lessons have gifted you in terms of your journey here on Earth. When we register and acknowledge the change points, we can complete. So there are fewer unrealized, unmanifest dreams and goals and incomplete life lessons, incomplete contracts with other human beings. And when I become the eyes and ears and heart and indeed consciousness of other individuals, I am the gatekeeper that dares to walk with the individual I am working with. I listen to indeed acknowledge what is incomplete, the unacknowledged. The silence, the listening, to travel into the timelines, indeed into your own timelines. Traveling into peace that demonstrates your sacred destiny. Here there is absolutely nothing to do but to listen, nothing to prove, but to listen to the instructions of your sacred destiny. That sacred calling is absolute, sacred truth. It is a gateway of reality where there can be no disappointment because the gift sees you as complete. To travel into the stillness is the most daring of initiation. Black star. Acknowledgement. It's here we reset all of our timelines and do not underestimate the work because I am not attached to any 3D generic training strategy. Alignment awakening, freedom. Permission, sovereignty, awakening, truth, alignment, resetting of our timeline is one of the greatest challenges when we do not understand the complexity of our consciousness, the sovereignty of our consciousness, therefore the sovereignty of our reality. We reweave our connection with Creator. And we initiate that rite of passage. The naivety of 3 and 4D is overflowed. And we begin to finally solve fear and limitation and the frequency distortions of both the separation, the duality, finally solved, resolved in the sacred alchemy of sacred destiny. We choose to live in the house of gold, where each sacred sign is revealed to us. It is the gift of trust. It is the gift that shows up when we are finally ready to initiate, finally ready to hop over the false matrix. Our internal light, because we dedicate to sacred destiny, illuminates our path. Safeguards who we are and our journey, and consistently reveals and manifests signs that confirm we are indeed ready. And this genius journey does not manifest for all. It is unfortunately not a generic all, because of course we must earn that right of passage beyond status, elitism, inheritance from the false matrix. And it is a journey of great responsibility. To remember brings freedom, but we also must remember our responsibility as sovereign human beings here on the planet and never for a moment take it for granted, or we succumb to the false matrix very, very quickly. Humbly, we must seek the path that is sacred, and we must commit and dedicate to exist and live in it, moment by moment. Our awareness offers us that choice. To enter the void. Finally, genuinely heal. To finally, genuinely awaken. And that requires great dedication and mastery. So, on path, I acknowledge you. I acknowledge me. I acknowledge sacred sovereignty. I acknowledge sacred destiny. I acknowledge sacred earth, sacred humanity. Frequency of our thoughts, frequency of concepts, reality gateways is so critical as we fly through reality gateways, because we are capable of choice when we enter the void. Now, this is huge in terms of ancient Egypt. The naivety of 3D action. The void allows us the time and space to acknowledge and complete ourselves. No need. So that is the first initiation complete. And of course, because our work is so unconventional, we will never present an initiation in the way that the false matrix portrays an initiation. Ha ha. Yes, because there's no need. We can become incredible sacred weavers of reality, and we can become incredible sacred witnessers to the sovereignty of other individuals without ever for a moment demonstrating or needing any kind of acknowledgement. So much of sacred healing is an invisible, magical, mystical art. Yes? And it's so technically immaculate, but it produces this magic that is so potent and so infinite. The void, the black star, the awakening, the house of gold. And our sacred destiny and our ability to fly with our dreams in this reality, the symbolism, the visual intelligence of ancient Egypt. Feet on the ground, and then the wing taking us high in terms of our reality. So the paradox is manifest within us, thrives.
So I think we were supposed to do initiation practices now.
I just did.
I know. I know. So that was initiation practices, part 1. Actually, today was pretty.
Thank you for your awareness, Nico.
I often go into a trance when you speak. Okay.
Who, me?
Me. So what other initiation practices do you have of your own that you can create of your own as individuals that are on the path and becoming more aware of the surroundings, your environment, people that you're in contact with? Initiation practices are kind of like your spiritual practices also.
Acknowledgement of life feed on life. So the life lessons that you are currently experiencing as a life feed on the reality of your consciousness in this moment of time, which also gives you a gift of greater freedom because we're not then attached to the naivety that we've made it because we've trained in a particular style or type of spirituality or consciousness training. Then we become more responsive and responsible in terms of our life lesson. So we're opening our range of resource, and our spiritual practice is this preparation into the void and into the awakening, so that our spiritual practice and our initiation is indeed in life. So it's in, again, space between tangible. So the caliber and the quality of our life becomes deeper because we are allowing it And that also is about listening. It's about seeing. So what happens when I see and I honor you as an individual? What's also happening when I listen to the non-tangible in between that connection? There is communication, and there can be listening on much, much deeper levels, which creates a richer and more sacred moment in time. That's the practice, to be present and to sacred witness, which of course the false matrix denies us access to.
So what are some of the initiation practices that students can do going from one gateway to the other? If they wanted to do something more on a
Practice.
yes, practice level.
Okay, so let's begin. Step inside, close your eyes. Be aware, because I'm working here in Egypt, teachings are spontaneously occurring. So there's transmissions, there's teachings on multi-dimensions. It's not just 3D. So into the head, into the heart, into the feet. Travel down through the biology into the feet. So there is a journey of acknowledgement. Biology is encrypted in and with the timeline. Again, it's another technology, another initiation technology. We travel in and we are registering our frequency. I choose sacred reality. I choose sacred frequency. I choose to reset my timelines. I choose to be complete. You're driving deep through your biology, through your consciousness, through all reality gateways. The initiation, the practice is every day. I choose sacred reality. You choose to remind yourself frequently. I choose sacred destiny. I choose the tribe that chooses sacred destiny. Choose to resurrect my sacred sovereignty. Our choice is the initiation, and freedom of choice must now be returned. Stand in the gateway. Reconnect it. Sacred destiny is my sovereign choice above or sacred love is my sovereign choice above all else. And if it does not come close to that, I fully reject. How does that feel? You reconnect with the sacred matrix that forever completes you. We remember we are capable of listening once again. Open your eyes. So there's a theme here, isn't there? The initiation is often into reality gateways we do not expect. And of course, I operate with massive non-convention. I mean, I can feel it within the context of even our group. It's so unconventional because it will challenge the paradigms, the constructs in which you believe spiritual reality and sacred destiny exists. I mean, I will not work within those false constructs, those false guidelines, those false gateways. You saw that your light is switched on once again. You experience the sacred matrix. So the reconnection is happening on multiple dimensions, not in a false matrix attachment, which can separate your dreams from the reality of who you really are and keep you locked in the frequency of unresolved wound. So you have all these dreams, but an incapacity to weave the reality of who you are, weave the timelines, weave your experiences. And of course, you are many, many, many experiences and stories. Genuine healing allows you to create a masterpiece in terms of who you are. Every life experience is an essential signpost and legacy and footprint. Sign. And then as we begin to choose sacred destiny, that footprint, your sacred footprint on the planet, becomes so profound and clear. Oh wow. The access code to sacred reality and sacred contracts, where we are walking with those we have connected with before. We return to light. We return to those sacred contracts where our footprint and our fingerprints, they resonate, they connect, they match. There's a resonance and natural harmony, yes? Coming together of the keys, and it's the coming together of the tribe without any need to imitate. That is the initiation. Do you imitate or not? Yes? And amazingness of non-convention. I mean, how many of you are absolute advocates of service and evolution, and yet selling out to the false matrix? Yes? Yes? Or it is the practice and your initiation to awaken and to spot these signs that aid you in not wasting time in your incarnation. Yes? Know that return to light is hugely important. Recognizing incomplete contracts and what that means in terms of a returning incarnation, and what that means in terms of the wound, in terms of incompletion contracts, and what that means on your timelines. I mean, can't even begin to transform it if you're in 3D, 4D strategy of transformation. It's not powerful enough. Only the sacred is powerful enough. And connecting with those guides and mentors who are in sacred transmissions. They're complete. Yes? Complete human beings are the keys. And then it removes this immense elitism, spiritual elitism. Yeah? Because it takes the work that we do to grassroots level, which of course is what it's all about. Yeah? You're not contributing because you're operating from a place of elitism. That's what we must now completely remove ourselves from. So your initiation is whether you can choose it and keep on choosing it and be brave enough to untangle yourself from the false matrix. That is the practice. And your practice is your clarity in what you choose as genuine reality, genuine sovereignty. Yes? Choice.
Yes, talked about that last week.
Choice and discernment. Awareness, not low density intuition. 4D psychic stuff. I mean, the stuff that became mainstream, especially with, for example, Hay House has done much to hijack the evolution of awareness and consciousness in our arena by placing false information, false training methods. So we must return to genuine training methods so we can awaken our awareness and our intelligence and our discernment and our energy, our resource, so we can make the choices and have sacred experiences, not false projections. Now, if we, for example, have a sacred experience, for example, in contact, sacred contact, extraterrestrial contact, indeed, contact with guides, aids that have a connection with, for example, Creator, what we would claim as angels. I mean, those kind of experiences, number one, you've got to be so ready for it, because holy shit, those experiences will make you see yourself, all of yourself. And that's a biblical experience, which is going to change you. And you would never, ever utilize, ever utilize those transdimensional intelligences to skivvy for the menial, the most menial of tasks. Yes, because of course you would most humbly honor those experiences, and that would jolt you into your sacred destiny and into the completion and the alignment, which places you exactly where you need to be in that moment in time with everything that you actually need. There is no doing. So, when we have these 3D requests on the sacred guardian of the sovereignty of humanity, we are forfeiting that contact with ego requests. Insane in terms of the sacred guides, the sacred protectors, the keepers of the ancient intelligence, the ancient knowledge. Our sovereignty and our survival is at stake. It's under threat. And our spiritual training is critical. And our spirituality at a grassroots level is equally critical, and critical mass is also essential. And I mean, within the context of our arena, there's a huge flaw in terms of this huge separation in terms of those who are living it and who are making correct choice and correct action, and those who are not, those who are faking it. And that will feel on a frequency level. And again, it's another initiation. Do you stand for it? Do you not? Where is your tribe, etc., etc.? We must register and acknowledge, and that is another initiation. You know, and moving out of this, spiritual false journeys where we're faking it. It's got to be about truth. It's got to be about discernment. It's got to be about what is correct path for ourselves and for humanity. Yes? And earth and the implications of that. Because where we are blind, we create distortions and we create from the wound, which again is not going to transform our planet, transform humanity. Constant initiation after initiation. I mean, I can't even bring myself to give an instruction. I mean, the instruction is we must choose it in every moment. That is the initiation now. Yes? And know that your prep work, your spiritual prep work, is the listening, is the internal space. There's nothing else. Because if you can't listen, you can't make any choice. Yes? And again, this false matrix unplug is really critical. You know, unplug from the distractions. Can you? Will you? Are you thinking about it? Can you do it? I don't know. That's your initiation. It's not my initiation. I know what I need to do to unplug from the false matrix and not be part of it. That's my sacred journey's choice in terms of my service. Yeah? So your initiation is, of course, unique to my initiation. Although you will know when you've made the correct choice because you transmit.
All right.
Yeah, that's the initiation. Do you ding?
Ding. Right. So the last portion of our session is on ancient intelligence transmission, which we recorded earlier, but we're going to give them a little taste of what that
Oh my God.
before we do the video later.
It's been like so amazing here. I mean, just super, super, super gateway after gateway after gateway. So the roll is on. So, okay. Your triggers with this, your biology. And we gotta go in and we gotta use gravity and also the 3D timeline. The density is bang, you're in it. It makes it real. So we use the 3D timeline. Is what it is. The restrictions of it can show us the way to freedom. It's okay. Just density. It's a reality gateway that is part of the matrix. Step inside. Head, heart, feet. Our location. On the grid. So, Luxor. You're going to feel that. So you get the anchoring and then you get the upscaling. You switch on your lights. Power of ancient intelligence. It's stored in sacred earth. And as an earth grid worker, this is powerful stuff, powerful initiation. It opens all the timelines. gateways, stargates, so we can be more and we can advance, evolve more for contact. Opening ourselves, listening. Ancient intelligence as it was then, as it was encrypted in the earth, in our biology. Gravity, sacred earth, sacred human beings allow us to ignite, switch on once again, so that we can reveal our light and transmit our light. We are prepared to travel the timelines once again. We are prepared to listen once again. When we are ready to listen once again, deep within, the intelligence within our own sacred intelligence, we are then ready to listen once again to the guides, indeed the keepers of the sacred contracts of humanity and earth. Highest intelligence, the hands that guide our evolution through the universe. We are agents of light. And we are agents of sacred and agents of universe. We see far into the timelines, far into the ancient past, far into the future. What we create is for now and for eternity. We make that sovereign choice. Open your eyes. Yes.
All right. Amazing. So that does it for this episode of Reality Gateway 1, Part 3. There is another video footage live from the temple today, so we'll add that to this feed. Um, our next Reality Gateway 1, Part 5, sorry, Part 4, will be self-transmission practices, telepathy, and visualization. One of the things that you can do in order to work on your awareness, another practice that you can do is when you're walking or going to work, if you're walking or driving or riding a bike or whatever, be really, really aware of everything around you. Notice the trees, notice the colors, notice the cars parked, notice everything around you every single time you go up and down that road to and from work or to and from the park. And every day, notice something different, whether a flower blossomed or whether something else is on the path. And for me, and for one of the practices that we do is that helps you heighten your sense of awareness. In addition to your inner work, you can start to see the different things around you. And as you walk that path over and over, every day, you notice something different. And we can start with that as heighten your sense of awareness of just your surroundings. And then later on, as you do the other practices, you can work on the body and the subtle changes in energy up and down the body and those things too. But for now, that's a really, really good way. If you haven't been doing the practices of heighten your sense of awareness, is to walk that path every day and notice those subtle things around you that you might miss. Like I said, flowers are the most important ones that you might miss sometimes walking along that path. So something
And
for you to
then
practice.
the recognition is also the transformation, because you're acknowledging the sacred resonance in what you're experiencing. Remember, your frequency will direct your reality gateway. So prep yourself so you are capable of tapping into a rich array of acknowledgements.
Another thing too for visualization, because we're going to be doing that in the next reality gateway, is to we can do the candles. You can sit. You can sit. One of the a really, really, really good visualization and practice that we have is candle work. So if you stare at a flame every day for 1 hour, or how much ever time you want to commit to it, and in your mind, you tell yourself that the flame is red, and we all know the flame normally is orange and a yellowish color. Tell yourself over and over, part of your practice is that the flame is red, the flame is red. And do that over and over until eventually you can change the color of that flame from a yellowish orange to red. And what that is that's utilizing your visualization and your projection, your mental projection, to change the reality of the flame within your mind, but not necessarily within this reality. And that's a really good practice that will help you in visualization and also focus, and also too in seeing the results of your training. And it's really, really key once you start to do some of those small but significant things that help you change your perspective on what you think you're seeing in this reality. Okay.
Yeah, what I would gonna add to that, his instruction was change the candle to red. So I changed it to green.
If you want, blue, yellow, purple, pink.
And I changed the shape of the flame to a door because I wanted to.
Yes.
But I also believe that our practices must have meaning.
Yes.
So, of course, that for me is symbolic of sacred love, and of course, it's an alchemist gateway. So, don't have any ego attachments within the context of what you are manifesting or experiencing. You know, the same for any kind of contact experiences that we have, it's not about the elitism of those experiences. It's what those experiences mean within the context of the caliber of who we are as human beings on this planet. So this is why I was never driven to do demonstrations of, for example, mediumship, because I don't have the same attachments. I say it's about finding a way to utilize the training and the level of consciousness to improve the quality of life on the planet constantly. So to be that person who is available, even within the constructs of my conventional training, I could not work in particular paradigms because my dedication is in removing the ego so that spirit is so capable of working with me in any situation I'm in. So changing the flame means what? It means changing the flame of yourself appropriately so that you can provide the magic for those who are sacred calling, visibly and non-visibly. I mean, to be able to use our consciousness to save people's lives is key. So when we use the practice sets, we're capable of not only listening to ourselves, but listening to the calling of help from other people. Yeah? And that's on a day-to-day level. And I mean, those individuals who set themselves up as healers who do, I mean, forget it. Forget it. Yeah? Yeah? Because if you can't listen, you can't answer those callings. And so we must remove ourselves from the attachments or, wow, I achieved this. And of course, we must acknowledge those experiences.
What helps you with focus too?
I have wow experiences, and yes, focus. But the initiation is the choice. Is it wow and the consumerism, or is it the what does that mean within the context of my own journey with it now? And whether that practice, and I mean deepening the practice, because we both know it's about practice. Deepening our practices is about seeing the deeper and deeper meaning in what we're experiencing. And that allows deeper completion and deeper healing. So the practice takes on board something else. Yeah?
Yes.
So those initiations were deepening, yes? Really important. Yeah. Kind of how deep can you go with your own work? Where can it go?
Always deeper.
There's no limitation to it, only the constructs of the false matrix and our own ego. Yes? So, again, initiation.
Right. Well, that does it for this episode and this class. We thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time in Boca, Florida. So if you're in the States, we're coming home.
And he's coming home.
Where it's warm.
It's warmer than Egypt.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So
Come and see us if you're in Florida, 2nd, 3rd.
at the Your Life Expo. Okay.
Thank you.
Until next time, peace and blessings. Hasta la pasta. Say bye to everybody. Our live studio audience. Our live studio audience.
Completely frozen.
アメンホテップ3世というアクナートのお父さん、そしてハトシェプがみんなここで集まってくるけど、
Tutmosis III.
タルモシス3世、
We have the origins of our mystery schools and the foundations, the structures of an Egypt in balance with sacred masculine, sacred feminine.
神聖な女性性、神聖な男性性のバランスを取るようなミステリースクールがエジプトで起こった時にここですごく大切な場所になっています。
So, 720 segments,
720体のセグメントのうち、
the sacred feminine in the 360,
神聖な女性性の像が360体、
the sacred masculine in the 360,
神聖な男性性が360体います。
and the coming together of both.
それが両方ここで合わさって、
Remember this. Behind us is the temple of the sun,
私たちの後ろに太陽の神殿があります。
and in front is the temple of man, Luxor temple.
前方に見えるのが人類の寺院であるルクソールテンプル寺院です。
The temple of Mut is the 0 point.
このムートのテンプル寺院はちょうど中間地点のゼロポイントにあります。
So it's here where we can resurrect work, inner consciousness
ここで私たちは意識的に自分のインナーワークをすることができます。
that will allow us to awaken, activate, and become more as human beings on the planet.
そして地球に生きる人類としてますます目覚めて活性化することができるんです。
So closing your eyes
では
and
目を閉じ
stepping
てください。
inside.
目を閉じて自分の内側に入りましょう。
The whole site immerses you in the consciousness, in the data, in the ancient intelligence of this time.
当時の古代の英知がこの寺院全体に刻み込まれています。
So we are sitting in an ocean of ancient intelligence data.
私たちは古代の英知のデータの海の中に座っているようなものです。
Allow yourself to immerse in it.
その中に自分を出現させ、
Reset.
リセットします。
Sak Mut.
イサムート。
Referencing the origins of the earliest sacred feminine realities, deities of ancient Egypt.
セクメトは古代エジプトの神聖な女性性のゲートウェイとなるような存在です。
As it was then.
その当時のセクメトを今ここに蘇らせます。
We stand with the ancestors.
私たちは古代の先祖たちと一緒にここに立ち、
We stand with ancient intelligence.
古代の英知とともにここに立ちます。
We stand in the ancestors who remind us of the sacred feminine and sacred masculine.
神聖な女性性、神聖な男性性を思い出させてくれるような先祖たちと共に私たちはここに立ちます。
Warriors of light,
光の戦士、
protectors of the knowledge of light.
光の知識を守ってくれている人たち。
For all eternity.
永遠の時間において。
This experience will awaken and activate the pineal,
この経験を通してあなたの消化体が活性化され、目が覚めていきます。
remember, for all time.
すべての時において、すべての時を思い出していきます。
Listening.
よく聞いてください。
Awakening, activating,
目覚め、活性化し、
Stargate.
スターゲートを目覚めさせ、活性化させます。
The initiations of sacred man, sacred woman.
神聖な男性、神聖な女性としてのイニシエーション。
These experiences will and should change you beyond generic stereotyping.
この経験を通してあなたの今までのステレオタイプのような思いが変化していくはずです。
Unveil the veil.
ベールが剥がれて、
Sakmut.
セクメント。
Awakening course, the first house of metaphysics,
メタフィジックの第一ハウスはもちろん
and the gateway that must be entered and initiated to step into the divine masculine.
神聖な男性性に入っていくためにゲートウェイも活性化させる必要があります。
Gateways, initiations, correct pathways.
正しい道
We are ready to follow the instructions.
私たちはインストラクションに従うことの準備ができています。
Align with quality of light,
光の品質に自分を合わせてください。
quality of that reality.
そのような質の高い現実に自分を合わせます。
When you stand in the presence of that gateway, standing strong and silent and still,
あなたはゲートウェイの前に強く、そして沈黙の中にじっと立っています。
only then have you been initiated.
それでこそ初めてイニシエーションが起こります。
Sakmut,
セグメント
only then can you enter the gateway.
そうすることで初めてあなたがそのゲートウェイの中に入ることができます。
And open your eyes.
そして目を開けてください。
How we expect to work is of course not it.
自分たちが期待しているようなワークになるかというと毎回違うことが起こったりします。
With the instructions, we are being given new pathways in terms of initiation, our initiation.
今ここで初めて新しく与えられたこのインストラクションによって私たちはイニシエーションをしました。
The beings, the guardians, the protectors of light and ancient intelligence
光の存在たちとしてそれを守ってくれている古代の知恵人たちが
seek to share with us that knowledge and wisdom
to secure the survival of humanity during these times.
その時においても人類が生き延びるように、そういう彼らの知識、英知を分け与えてくれようとしています。
We must be prepared to receive that knowledge from more powerful,
その英知を受け取るために、そしてもっとしっかりとパワフルに受け止めるために、私たちは準備をする必要があります。
creator beings that require great strength and stillness, mastery on our behalf, so that we can receive the information, the instructions.
創造主が私たちに大きく構えて力強くしっかりと立ち、より深く知識が受け取れるように準備をする必要がある。そうすれば私たちはその情報を受け取ることができると言っています。
720 segments.
720体のセグメントは、
Each complete human being becomes a warrior and protector of light.
それがしっかりと統合されたその人類が光の戦士となるのです。
Capable and able of great mobilization,
大いなるムーブメントを起こすことができるようになります。
and evolution,
そして進化も起こすことができます。
leading the way.
人々を引っ張って道を示していくことができるのです。
So, be careful about the information that you access pertaining to ancient Egypt. So much of it is based in later ideas.
古代エジプトに関するさまざまな文献や情報がありますが、後世になってから書かれているものもあるので気をつけてください。
We even go back to the original language.
私たちはここでは本来の当時の言葉にまで振り返っていろいろな記録を蘇らせています。
Sek, met,
セクメトとは言わないんですね、当時は。
sak, mut.
サクムットだったんです。
The
昔は
earlier and the original ancient Egyptian.
古代エジプト人はサクムットというふうに呼んでいたんです。
So there have been many ties with civilizations in terms of ancient Egypt.
でも古代エジプトの後にいろんな部族が入ってきてますので、
We must travel the timelines to discover the original sacred truths of ancient Egypt.
本当の古代のエジプトの真実を探すためにいろいろなタイムラインをどんどん奥を掘って下の方まで入っていかないといけません。
Often the material that is channeled is definitively laid down in the encryption at sites.
私がここでチャネリングしているとほとんどの情報っていうのはこの部分に書かれている刻まれている文献、こういうものから影響を受けてやっています。
So within the context of that, the data is laid down here.
ですからデータはここにこそあるんです。
So I can check, recheck the information and the data and the quality of the information that allows us to initiate.
ですから私はここに来ていろいろなデータを再確認し、その品質が高いかどうかもここでチェックして、それでこそ私たちは初めてイニシエーションを起こすことができます。
Where on the timeline is that particular reality of Sekhmet, Sakhmut.
私たちはセクメットまたはサクムートのそのタイムラインにちゃんといたい、そこでワークをしています。
Where was it written? Who wrote it? Who researched Sekhmet, Sakhmut?
誰が一体サクムートをセクメットと書いたのかということです。
And without constant research at sites, there is no basis or evidence before conclusively knowing anything about ancient Egypt.
ですも最近はちゃんとここに戻ってきてまたやってるような探求をやっていませんので、一体どれが本当の古代のエジプトの知識かどうかが分からなくなってしまっています。
Also, the specialisms rest in particular areas.
専門家と呼ばれている人たちもある特定の研究の段階で止まってしまってるんですね。
So you would have one specialism in one particular dynasty, one specialism in a particular location, for example, Mut or Karnak, and those specialists would not join the dots between dynasties or particular temples or sites.
専門家と言っている人は例えばカルナックだけの専門家とかなんとか王朝の専門家とかそういう部分の専門家で点と点でしか見ていないのでこれを全部つなげて見ている人はいません。
Through my own research, I've recognized this as the 0 point in terms of its preparation of initiates for the highest caliber work.
私自身はいろいろ私の自分の研究によってここが0ポイントに対してより高い品質に上がっていくためのイニシエーションを受けるのに最適な場所だと見つけました。
So it's based on the location of Mut, it's based on my understanding of Karnak, my understanding of Luxor, the temple of man.
このムート神殿がちょうどルクソールとカルナックの真ん中にあるということが
And the preparation as man to receive the extraterrestrial guidance.
そして人類が準備をして宇宙からの英知を受け止めるというその準備をするということで
You can't receive transdimensional transmissions information if you are not prepared. This is one of the problems within the context of need and greed at sites.
多次元的な英知というのは自分を準備しなければ受け取れないわけですよね。ですから時には遺跡にさえ行けばいいっていうような欲求とかなんか欲が起こってしまっています。
Egypt is sealed.
エジプトはちゃんと守られているんです。
There is no intellectual initiation into Egypt because of course it is a consciousness, it's a reality initiation.
これは知識欲のイニシエーションではなくて意識そして現実の中でイニシエーションが起こらなくてはエジプトに入れません。
And of course, an intellectual understanding brings forward many challenges.
頭脳でただ理解するだけでは多くの挑戦がただ起こるだけで
Because you're locked out of the sacred knowledge that is indeed stored here.
ここにある神聖な知識がちゃんとあるのにそこにはアクセスしていないんですよね。
Your initiation is through an initiate who can lead you and nothing else.
でも私がイニシエーションしてますから私がこのイニシエートとしてあなたをそういうところに連れて行ってい
And
ます。
again, the sealing of Egypt is clear.
そしてエジプトのどういうところがカバーされているかというのを私は見ていますの
Which
で
is why it is possible to experience Egypt and project false truths.
ですからエジプトに来てもしかしたらただ間違った偽りを投影してしまうかもしれませんし
And admire it in terms of one's ego.
または自分の我でただ見ただけでなんかすごく称賛しているかもしれないし
Or one moves through the deeper knowledge and into the great mysteries, which are of course secrets.
または秘密であるんですが深い英知のところにちゃんと潜り込んでそれをしっかりつかめるかということがいろいろ分かれてくるわけですね。
You have no right of passage until you have been initiated, until you have earned it.
イニシエーションを受けてしっかりその権利を受けなければ正しい道に入ることはできません。
So, the gateways. You stand in the reality gateway,
現実の世界にあるこのゲートウェイにしっかりと立ち
and you are acknowledged as ready as fit in the eyes of the Creator gods.
創造主の目にしっかりと目から見てしっかりとあなたがフィットした人だというふうに自分をまず置きます。
In separation, you are not fit for that rite of passage.
もしここに総動主との分離が起こってしまったら正しい道に入っていくことはできません。
Again, that is the seal that protects the ancient
それ
intelligence.
こそが古代の英知が今ここで秘密にされて隠されているということの鍵です。
And equally, the ancient gateways that require careful navigation.
古代のゲートウェイに入っていくにはとても注意深く入っていく必要があります。
Once we direct experience these transdimensional beings,
私たちがこのような多次元的な存在たちと直接的な体験をしたなら、
we must be guided in terms of that interaction.
彼らによってこういうふうにイニシエーションされ、いろいろな経験をすることができるようになります。
Because of course it will change us to forever.
私たちをもうそのイニシエーションによって永遠に変えてくれるからです。
And of course we need mastery to interact with immensely more
この
intelligence.
巨大なる英知たちと交流をするためには私たちが本当に準備されていなくてはいけません。
So how do we co-create with these transdimensional beings?
どうやってこの多次元的な存在たちと私たちは関わりを持つんでしょうか。
Because our intelligence must be greater developed, our emotional intelligence must be greater developed and mastered.
私たちの英知そして感情もちゃんとマスターされていなければそういうことはできません。
You can feel it here. There's such a powerful activation through the third eye.
第3の目からすごい活性化、アクティベーションが起こっているのを感じると思います。
So spend some time.
それではご自分の時間を楽しんでください。
You need to write your journals. You need to absorb. You need to reset.
日誌を書いたり、自分でこのエネルギーを吸収したり、リセットしてください。
The preparation of our journeys is so critical.
私たちがジャーニーのための準備をするというのはとても大切です。
And that is one aspect that is seldom focused upon enough.
ところが多くの場合そこに十分な、関心が置かれていません。
Good work.